in the Pledge of Allegiance, and we're going to call upon our Council President, Penny Sims, to lead this meeting in prayer.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, Lord God, and thank you for everything you do. Lord, we thank you most for all you do for us, Lord God, and that they would not be able to walk in life. Lord, I just ask that you would be with everybody here tonight, Lord God, and keep this meeting still, Lord God, and help this forward, Lord God, and make all the decisions we be in the best interest of this community, Lord God. Praise you for all you do. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, we're going to take a roll call of our board. Charles Reed.
Here.
Mr. Skip Fry.
Here.
Josette Lawson.
Here.
And Kevin Webb.
Here.
And Chair Wendy Fraker is here as well as our land use administrator. And
Legal counsel is here. This is Miss Avery. I'm sorry. Avery, what's your last name? Tell us.
Byen, B-Y-E-N.
Thank you.
And she's an associate in Christian's office. She'll be joining us from now on for our meetings.
Thank you.
So tonight we are starting out our meeting by reading something that you should all have access to. Kendra, were we able to get more copies?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And really, this is a little bit of housekeeping, but we would like to read this for the public and for this particular meeting as well. This is something going forward that we will adopt.
We've already adopted.
We've adopted, but we're ensuring that everybody has understanding of how this works. So these are the quasi-judicial hearing procedures as adopted by the Planning and Zoning Board. Copies of these procedures are available at the entry of the chambers next to the public comment cards. Florida statutes and the state of Florida, or courts of Florida require that the following item be heard as a quasi-judicial hearing. Item number 1, ordinance number 2025-01, an ordinance of the Town of Hilliard Municipal Corporation rezoning the property consisting of approximately 51 acres, more or less, located on the east side of Pine Street, north of Henry Smith Road, more particularly described in Attachment A, legal description, specifically described in Attachment B, written description, and Attachment C, site plan. Hilliard, Florida, Nassau County, parcels ID number 16-3N240000090000 from Agriculture A1 to HUD Planned Unit Development, providing for severability, repealer, and setting an effective date. Applicants have the burden of demonstrating competent, substantial evidence that his or her application is consistent with the following requirements. As for item number 1, Article 5 of the Land Development Regulations Comprehensive Plan 2040 in the amended interlocal agreement for public schools facility planning adopted in 2008. Those opposed must also demonstrate competent, substantial evidence that the application does not meet these requirements. General objections without specific evidence does not constitute substantial, competent evidence. The only material or relevant evidence is that which addresses the previously listed requirements. The hearing procedures are as follows. The presiding officer will read the item on the agenda by title and declare the public hearing open. The town attorney or presiding officer shall explain the rules concerning the procedure, testimony, and the evidence of admission of evidence. Number 3, the land use administrator shall briefly describe the applicant's request, introduce and review all relevant exhibits and evidence, report staff's recommendation, and present any testimony in support of staff's recommendation. Number 4, applicant or his or her representation or counsel shall present evidence and testimony in support of the application. Applicant shall have a maximum of 30 minutes to make his or her full presentation, including opening statement and all direct presentation by witnesses, but excluding any cross-examination or questions from the board. The applicant may waive their presentation or rely upon staff comments. If the applicant waives their presentation, they will have the right to review any testimony against their application. Number 5, any other persons present who wish to submit relevant information to the board shall speak next for a maximum of 3 minutes each. We are timing that with a clock there on the wall, excluding any cross-examination or questions from the board. Members of the public will be permitted to present their non-expert opinions, but the board will be expressly advised that the public sentiment is not relevant to the decision and must be made based upon the competent and substantial evidence. Number 6, the applicant will be permitted to make any final comments if any. Number 7, the land use administrator will make any final comments if any. Number 8, the presiding officer asks for a motion to close the public hearing from the Planning and Zoning Board. Number 9, the board will conduct an open deliberation of the application or agenda item. Number 10, open deliberations shall include a motion by the board. A motion by the board to approve the item would be consistent with the following. I move that the board find that proposed rezoning is consistent with the comprehensive plan, complies with all procedural requirements, and serves the public interest. And based on these findings, approve the rezoning application. A motion by the board to deny the approval, the application should include one or more of the following. The application is not consistent with the comprehensive plan. The application does not meet the procedural requirements, or the application is not in the public best interest. Number 11, after deliberations, a roll call vote shall be taken to approve with conditions, or deny the application or agenda item. Number 12, the meeting is being recorded, and therefore there could be no applause, outbursts, talking, or comments from the audience, as it will distort the recordation. Never used that word before, but number 13, the town attorney represents the board and provided counsel, including advice as to the hearing procedures and relevancy of the evidence. Number 14, the strict rules of evidence applicable to a court proceeding will not be utilized. However, the board will, with assistance from the town attorney, may exclude evidence that is not relevant to the code criteria as set forth in the application or is repetitive in nature. And final rule is number 15, in accordance with Florida Statute 286.0105, if any person decided to appeal any decision made of this board with respect to the matter considered as this scheduled meeting or hearing, the person will need a record of the proceedings, and for such purpose, he or she may need to ensure that a verbatim record of the proceedings is made, which record includes the testimony and evidence upon which the appeal is to be based. All right. That being out of the way, we are moving on to item number 1, the Planning and Zoning Board recommendation to the Town Council for approval of ordinance 2025-01 to rezone parcel ID number 163N24000000090000. Applicant Randy Martin
Nunes.
Martinez. Sorry about that.
Sinminick.
Seminic Investment Corporation. I'm so sorry. And with that, we would ask we would call first upon the board for any ex parte communication regarding this item. Okay. Let it be noted that there was none called for. And then we call for the public
You
hearing
call and
for-
state the time.
before you heard.
Follow. Right down this.
Okay, so we will call for the open hearing, public hearing at 7:10 p.m. And we will first hear from our land use administrator, Leanne Woolitz, who will read the agenda item report and staff report on ordinance 2025.
Thank you, Ms. Wood. Planning and Zoning Board recommendation to the Town Council for approval of ordinance 2025-01 to rezone parcel ID 16-3N24000000090000. Applicant Randy Martinez, Sinminick Investment Corp. Background. Documents included for your review. Staff report. Ordinance 2025-01 with its attachments. The legal advertisement for ordinance 2025-01. Application for the PUD with the revisions dated 11/26/04. The concurrency application for Nassau County School Board. I'm sorry. I meant 20, did I say 2004?
Yes.
I'm sorry, 2024. The concurrency application for Nassau County School Board, the Nassau County School Board deficiency notice, and the Tompkins Preserve notice of negotiations to Nassau County School Board. Randy Martinez has submitted an application to rezone the property with parcel ID number 16-3N24000000090000. The property is approximately 71 acres, with approximately 51 acres involved in the rezone application and the remaining portions proposed for conservation. The property lies on the east side of Pine Street, north of Henry Smith Road. The property has a zoning designation of agricultural. The owner is proposing to change the zoning designation of the property to PUD, Planned Unit Development. The applicant has provided the required documentation and complied with all requests of staff, council, and board members as addressed through workshops, email communications, and phone calls. In compliance with the interlocal agreement, payment of the Nassau County School Board concurrency deficiency will be made to the school board prior to the final approval of the ordinance by the town council. Parcel ID number, as previously stated, the 71 acres is currently owned by John Cassidy, CCRC Woodlands Limited, and owner's authorization has been submitted with the application. Sinminick Investment Corp. Plans to develop the property with up to 170 single-family dwelling units. Financial impact on the town is none. The applicant is required to pay all application, advertising, and review fees. Recommendation. Staff recommendation to the Planning and Zoning Board to recommend to the Town Council approval of ordinance 2025-01 with the condition that the Nassau County School Board deficiency be paid prior to final approval. On to the staff report. Staff report for ordinance 2025-01. Applicant information, Randy G. Martinez, Sinminick Investment Group, 2120 Corporate Suite Boulevard, Suite 3, Jacksonville, Florida, 32216. Property information, parcel ID and address, 16-3N240000090000, Pine Street, Hilliard. Current future land use map designation is medium density residential. Current zoning is A1. Proposed zoning is PUD for approximately 51 acres. Approximately 71 acres is the total size of the parcel. Description. The property is zoned A1 and is currently used for timberland. The table below summarizes the future land use map designation, zoning, and existing use of the adjacent parcels. To the north, we have low density residential, currently zoned A1, used for timberland, and medium density residential, currently zoned R2, single family subdivision. To the south, we have medium-density residential PUD used for single-family subdivision and low-density residential zoned Nassau County open rule improved ag is the current use. To the east, we have a flume designation of agricultural, a current zone of A1, and the uses are vacant, timberland, and single-family. To the west, we have medium-density residential PUD, single-family subdivision, and low-density residential A1, single-family, and timberland. On the next page in your staff report, you have a basic outline aerial of the parcel. And then you have the photographic aerial and outline of the parcel in question. You have a future land use map showing that the property in question is already zoned with a flume of medium density residential, and the existing zoning of this parcel and the surrounding parcels as previously stated. Your next map shows the flood zone A, which has an unknown elevation and which parts of the property are included in the flood zone. And then we have potential wetlands on the next map. This is according to Nassau County Property Appraiser's website. This is their potential flood zone map. On the next page, you have the conceptual site plan, and you can blow this up to show the phases and where the parks will be if you choose. This is one they brought on the big map when they came to the last workshop for you to review more closely. Documents provided for review: staff report, ordinance 2025-01, advertisements for the ordinance, public hearings, application for the PUD with all required attachments. Consistent with the comprehensive plan policies, the proposed zoning change is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Hilliard Comprehensive Plan. The proposed zoning is consistent with the future land use map and is compatible with the surrounding development. Availability of services. Water and sewer service have capacity to serve this development. A quarter-mile extension of the town's water service line on Henry Smith Road to assist with the town's plans to loop the water system will be part of phase 2 of the project. Pine Street provides access to the property. A Nassau County driveway permit will be required to access the property. Land sustainability. The soils on the property are suitable for development. There are wetlands located within the approximately 51-acre site. A permit from St. Johns River Water Management District will be required for development. Conservation plans for the remaining approximately 20 acres of the parcel is a high likelihood. Details will be determined as part of the St. Johns River Water Management District permitting process. A portion of the parcel is in the 100-year flood zone, Zone A. Land use administrator's comments and recommendation. I can confirm that the proposed rezone uses are consistent with the comprehensive plan, as the rezone has a wide variety of housing types and price points to meet the community's diverse and evolving needs, while maintaining areas for other uses and preventing overdevelopment. My recommendation to the Planning and Zoning Board is for the board to make a recommendation to the Town Council for the approval of Ordinance 2025-01, Tompkins Preserve PUD.
Okay, thank you. So at this point in the item, in the public hearing, we would entertain any call for applicants or a call for the applicant comment, and then we'll move to a public comment from this.
If I may interject for just one moment, just for the purpose of this hearing, the staff report and the attached documents are entered into evidence and are marked as composite exhibit A.
Thank you. Mr. Randy,
We may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Kevin. Remember, down is up. Yes, sir. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you press the button on the microphone to turn it on so our recording can get, thank you.
Start again. I'm Randy Martinuzzi on behalf of Seminole Investment Corp. I wanted to thank you, first of all, for the time that was spent at the workshops and giving us the feedback. And I hope that as we go through the presentation, that it'll show you that we did listen, and that would be one of the reasons why I'm hoping that we got the favorable comments so far. I also have had an opportunity to speak to some of the citizens that abut the property, and I don't want to belabor too many points, but I think a lot of their concerns can be addressed, and some of the things I heard that I want to just let them know and see if that, let them know that through the workshops, their interests were protected. There were mandates made that we understood are going to be required for this to go through. And let's just go from there. So we are, Semitic Investment Corp. Is the land development arm of CETA New Homes. CETA New Homes is a family-owned local company that's been here for years. I think that a couple of people said they understand that Flora Park in Nassau County is one of the, make sure this up. Flora Park is one of the pinnacle subdivisions that we've done, and I think that in every aspect, Tompkins Preserve will match that with some of the land development guidelines that are being required through the PUD process. So I have already told a few of the people who discuss this with me, I will share this PowerPoint with them so that they can read it. I'm taking some emails. So I don't want to belabor it too much. I want to get more into the self-serving things. I mean, I love CETA Homes. I love working there. I'm proud of our product. We do, like I said, it's family legacy. Our homes are not cookie cutter. We have multiple floor plans, multiple elevations. We don't put two houses next to each other that are identical. We usually take them to drywall, and then from there, people do specs. They choose their interiors. We have a design center on site at our offices on Corporate Square Boulevard. So we are committed to putting up a product that when it adjoins or abuts the existing neighbors will add value to what they have. This is, we are very proud of what we put up. Okay. You've already shown the development within the documents, but I'm still going to go through it real quick for some of the people who haven't had an opportunity to look at the proposals. One of the things I would like to let the crowd know is that this is a 71-acre parcel. We are only looking at developing 51 acres. We are keeping 21 acres in reserve. There's a good reason for that. A lot of it is wetlands. It has the creek running through it. It also is in some floodplain. There are some uplands along Henry Smith Road that maybe at some future date might be, we would leave them within the zoning that they are, which would be 1 acre lots, or deal with it at a future date. That's nothing that we foresee right now. And we think that most of that land is going to be put into conservation for the purposes of dealing with the fact that in the upper part, the northern part of the property, there are some wetlands. There's about 10 acres of wetlands. And to get some of the roads through, they would be some impacts. I estimated 4 acres of impacts. I tried to do it a little high. We don't have full engineering. We don't have the wetlands fully delineated at this point in the process. So we will need to do significant preservation for purposes of any impacts that we do. That would be worked out, as Leanne said, through with the St. John Water Management District, and then also the township's engineers as we go through that process of development. parentheses on that. There might be.
Mr.
because we have
Kevin, can you
people
move us
standing.
forward a slide?
The,
One,
the trigger's over there.
hang on just a
There
minute.
we are.
Back us up
Somebody
one,
moved
Kevin.
there. Now we got it to work. Okay. So one of the things I wanted to, I'm not sure who was at, I know a few of you or most of you were at one of the workshops where we presented. A couple of the things that weren't necessarily shown as well at that time that we now have is we are trying to show, as you'll see, there's the circle that is zeroing in on the little island that's being put between the two stormwater ponds. We are trying to show that we're going to activate that, make it a little bit of a park area so that the residents within there will be able to enjoy it. And then you'll see that the trail from north to south also provides connectivity so that if you have children within the community, they can get to the large upper part of the park without really having to go through the streets or along the sidewalks, even though there is a circular sidewalk that runs on the whole perimeter of all the streets. So you have the connectivity that is required in that respect, but we also thought it would be a nice design feature to have the path that cuts right through the center to get from point A to point B, north to south. We also have a couple pocket parts. I'm going to get into the phasing a little bit. So we have the pocket parts on the, let's call it the west side, the long island, the long rectangle. And with respect to that long rectangle, those pocket parts are done in conjunction that the sewer from one subdivision to the other goes through there. So there's a sewer system. We wouldn't be able to build on it. We just felt the better thing to do is let's just make a nice pocket park there with the phasing. That pocket park along with the open area up front provides so that we stay within the code calculations of what is needed with respect to parks. With respect to this plan, as we look at it here, it is 156 lots. We have asked for 170 because we originally, when we came into you, there were some changes that had occurred where it's now required that 20% of the property is put into open area, parks, etc. Whereas that change had, I believe, occurred in 2024 and we weren't up to it or we made a mistake. So we're still a little over, but we are still asking to leave it at 170. And one of the reasons why is that if we look at the wetland map that I'm showing on the screen right now, the wetlands are not as extensive as we show them on our plans. We do everything to be safe. We recognize probably a lot more wetlands than are really there. So as those wetland lines are possibly shorter, smaller, we may be able to push the subdivision a little deeper in to the south. And as we push it deeper to the south, we might pick up a few lots. If the wetlands are larger than anticipated, then we would lose some lots. We have asked for the 50-foot width. And the reason for the 50-foot width is we all know that with the recent years and the interest rates, that it's very tough to predict what the correct product is going to be. Our smallest product that we would put in would require a 50-foot lot. Many of the products we put in require a 75-foot lot. So while we have the 157, we're planning, this is set up for 50-foot lots. We could easily end up somewhere in the middle. We did 3 phases for that same reason, that the first phase lots are 140 foot deep. So we felt that we could keep the lot size pretty large, even if we went at the 50s. And if we find out in phase one that the product that is a larger product, we can deal with that in phase two as we redesign and go through the phases so that we make sure that it's a community, we have resale, that it meets with what the population is going to want within that subdivision. As I said, the wetland impacts are estimated at approximately 4 acres of the 10 within the 51 parcel. Those are on the north, very limited. Our opinion is that those are isolated impacts, which means that those wetlands are not part of the larger system. And by doing that, if the St. John Water Management District agrees, that would give us the ability to stay with a development track of under a year. If for some reason the St. John Water Management District and the federal government determine that they are part of the larger system to the south, and everyone, there would be no dispute, there could be no argument, it would be bad faith to say that the lower ones are not part of a regional system, then we could add up to a whole year with respect to how long it takes to actually get it permitted with respect to the wetlands.
Let's go back 4 slides. 5 slides. One more, please. Thank you.
So one of the things that I wanted to note is the subdivision to the south has about the same depth of lots that we have. That those lots are around, they go from 135 based on the plat. I looked at the plat from 135 up to about 146. There's a little bit of a meander in the road that causes some of them not to have the depth. So we're very happy that this just lays out by the time we put the road in, that we can have a 140, 140. The lots to the north are a little deeper. I think they're a little closer to 150, but they're about 100 foot wide. Okay, I think the width to the south is 60 or 65. I think it's 60. It could be 70. I'm not trying to mislead anyone. I'm just losing my memory here as to what it was when I was preparing. So one of the things that I want to kind of address some of the comments that are going to come in, while these lots might be a little thinner, not quite as wide, with respect to those subdivisions, this has, by being a PUD, we end up with much more park area than in their current subdivisions. And we also have a lot of retained wetlands, and we were able to work the stormwater as to features within so that they actually become recreational area as to the one that's in the center. With the future land use, it's our understanding that we could put into 6 dwelling units per acre. On the 51, I calculated that at close to 274 would be the potential. That would be if it was straight zoning. But as a PUD, when we put the 20 acres into open area, preserved wetlands, parks, our number actually that we came down to is we're only looking for 170. So by doing a PUD, we do have a little smaller lot, but we do have more land preserved. We have greater parks, and I think that it's a much better neighborhood benefit for sure. And I think it provides a community benefit just to the extent that we have on many of the sides of that subdivision, we have preserved wetlands as well as forested lands that are being preserved. The other thing that I had heard, and I want to make sure that we are acknowledging, is that this PUD is for single-family residential detached houses, no multifamily. I know that you know that, and I know that you know that we understand that, but I just want to put it on the record that that is clear. is day, that these are going to be houses, and that's all it's going to be. Can we go down a lot, please? Thank you. So when I was discussing this a little bit at one of the at the public workshops, you could see on the plan that we had the big entry, and that's why we had the set back so far from the road at the entry, was because we wanted to have a nice bus stop under the new subdivisions. We're pretty sure the U.S. Postal Service is going to make us have a single area for all the mailboxes, so there'll be a cluster. So we wanted to get all that setback off the road, and also by having the large park setback open area off the main entry, which provides a little privacy to the subdivision. It also keeps that privacy for the people who are looking for that, to maintain that rural feel. This is essentially the way it shows conceptually as being designed, where you have an entry, an exit, and then you have the island where the sign would be. This will be per the guidance that we were provided by the Township of Hilliard. We understand that it has to be a private road. So as a private road, which there would be no Town of Hilliard maintenance, it would be maintained by the HOA. We do retain the right to gate it. And if we gate it, we would have to have the fire escape lane. We've done this before, so we understand what the safety requirements will be, and we'll make sure that we work in concert with them when we get to the engineering, and that everything's appropriate along with the knock box and everything else that the public safety will require, as well as turning, fire engine access, anything that's necessary. Next slide, please. So I just want to give a couple of features. When we do piers, they will be concrete. They will be pretty. This is pretty typical in every subdivision we're doing now, a similar pier as an accent entry point. So this is a similar phasing plan for those who we were able to address at the public workshops. Nothing in this respect has changed. The park we have laid it out so that phase one will still meet the park requirements. And then as we go into phase two and phase three, we would stay within all requirements of the parks. That's the main thing that's being done here. I do want to keep this up for a second because there was a couple issues that were brought to our attention at the public workshop, so that we understood what was going to be required. And this is pretty important because this conceptual plan still does not show, and it will eventually show once we have a full understanding of what there is with respect to the stormwater management ponds to both the north and south developments. It's very clear, not only through the St. John Water Management District, that we will have to make sure that this subdivision takes any water from those that is coming into it, because there are some wetlands that water is discharging onto this property. We know that our engineering is going to have to account for that. We're going to have to manage it. And I wanted to go one step further because I believe that there's one comment that's going to be coming from somebody that's even a little further south, that they're having some water. When you saw the wetland map, you will see that the southern pond to the west is not in any wetlands. Our view of the wetland lines is that it does not go into the large parcel that is just to the south of Southern Glen subdivision. So we have an understanding there might be some water that's, yes.
You have 10 minutes remaining.
Thank you. It's our understanding that that subdivision, that parcel may have some land to the extent, as you know, we cannot drain wetlands. So if that's if that parcel is part of a wetland, we won't be able to help it out. But we can engineer to the extent it's not part of wetlands. As we do that and we have that stormwater pond, we may be able to help that parcel out some. Okay, but I am going to say unequivocally, we cannot put ponds in that ever drain a wetland. We cannot have a secondary impact that drains a wetland down. So I'm just letting, for public comment, people know that we can do to help out with water so long as we're not impacting wetlands. Can we go down a couple slides? Okay. So I just wanted to highlight some of the text that was within there. I wanted this committee or this board to understand that it was made very clear to us that we have to loop the water system, which is, we have said that we know that we're going to bring it at least to the property line. To get that water system through the wetlands, it may actually get extended, which would just be an added benefit. It may get extended another 100 feet, 200 feet. We're going to find the path of least resistance through those wetlands, and that's where the water line is going to go through. I actually have January 10th as our environmental engineer is going to start flagging it. So by the time we get to the board meeting, I might be able to give them a little better idea of conceptually, might even change the map to show where that's going to be and what we think. So I'm hoping to do that. We're working as fast as possible. The holidays cut a little bit of our ability to move that forward since the meeting. But we do understand that by phase 2, when we start getting a little further off the water supply, that we have to meet fire flow. And it was made very clear that if we don't make fire flow in phase 1, we're going to have to loop that water system to get the fire flow in phase 1. The Township of Hilliard will not accept that fire flow does not work, or we will modify phase 1 to make sure it does work. Whatever we have to do, it's been very clear. Fire flow, yes. No fire flow, no certificate of occupancy. Okay, and we did change the language to do that. So that's kind of laid out in both of those paragraphs that I have. And I wanted to show the red line where that's new language that was done. And also we added the language that talks about we're going to coordinate with the St. John Water Management District to specifically take care of the 2 subdivisions to our west, to make sure that if their water is taken care of and that we do nothing to impact or cause any harm to their subdivisions. Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. That's also shown again with regard to this slide. I did add one talking point that I wanted to add, and I highlighted paragraph J out of the text language that talks about configuration. And essentially, we already talked about it not very verbose, but the configuration of this is very conceptual. The wetlands have yet to be delineated. As it's set up is the most extreme. It's set up with 50-foot lots, so it could end up at 60-foot lots. I don't think it would end up much bigger than 60, but it could, which would just essentially take away from the lot count. But we did put the standard language in there that we can work with the township with regard to the actual layout of the final development plan, and then they would obviously have veto power over us if we deviated where they thought there was an improper deviation. That does not protect the intent of what we're asking you to approve today. And to the extent that I may have went through it too quickly, we also understood that the internal roadways need to be private and that there will be no burden upon the township to take care of those over time. With respect to the elements of the comprehensive plan of 2040, I'm going to tie it up right here. With respect to the comprehensive plan of 2040, page 2 of the exhibit pretty much lays them out. We are definitely within the future land use criteria. We're actually seeking much less than the future land use would do. I had said that it was over 270 and we're seeking a maximum of 170. So we have actually not gone to full density. So we think it's very positive for the community in that respect. The housing, we've kept it open for lot sizes so that we can make sure that as the community develops, that is, we need to do bigger lots or smaller lots. Obviously, nothing less than 6,000 square feet and nothing under 50 foot, that we have the ability to do that so it becomes a very long, viable community. The public facilities, I don't think there can be any argument that those are not, that's not a positive to the community by extending the water line down the street down Henry Smith. Thank you. Along Henry Smith, that will get you part of the way. I believe you are looking to do the loop. You need about a mile. We're going to get you about a quarter of that mile, and maybe even more if we find that that's the path of least resistance through the wetlands. So we may go a little further to the east if it's called for. There's also no doubt that there's conservation. There's, at a minimum, you're going to have 6 acres of wetlands preserved within this property, and the 21 acres to the south will be maintained. I can tell you unequivocally those are going to be maintained because those are part of a system. They would take years to permit to impact those. And it also has a stream. They're beautiful. There'll be a big selling point to this community. We have over 20% of recreation and open space, which is required for a PUD, which is much more than a standard subdivision. So we think that that's a very big positive for this project that we have before you. And we're going to meet the element of intergovernmental coordination by having sewer, water, all utilities underground, having preserved wetlands, working with the St. John Water Management, making sure that everything takes care of the subdivisions next to us. We think that we're working with all those community or all those governmental agencies, including the Township of Hilliard, that we will have that element of the future land use map handled. At this point, I'll yield and take any questions you can and reserve the right to respond to any comments as are necessary. Thank you. Should I leave this up here right now?
Can I have that back? Thank you. I get in trouble with Mr. Kevin if I forget to turn it in at the end of the night.
So this now allows us to call for public comment regarding this this item. What we would say is that each comment is 3 minutes and strictly adhered to. And when you step to the podium, we would ask that you state your name and address. Is there?
May I address?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a log at the podium. If you will write down your name and address for us, we have to preserve the name and address of everyone who speaks, makes public comment. You'll get 3 minutes, and I'd really like to read the Pledge of Civility. Our mayor makes sure to read this at every town council meeting, and it is the standard we hold to for decorum in chamber. So I want to read that to you. We will respect one another. Even when we disagree, we will direct all comments to the issues. We will avoid personal attacks. So if you could keep that in mind when you make your public comment, the board is prepared to hear all of you who have something to say. Once you state your name and address, Mr. Charlie will start the clock. You'll have a 3-minute countdown on the little digital clock under the TV, so you will know when your time is up.
If I could just interject for one moment, I just want to note that the applicant's PowerPoint and the documents contained therein are entered into evidence and marked as composite exhibit B. We can proceed.
So this is now the official call for public comment. Again, stepping to the podium and stating your name and address, and I'll give you your information on the slide.
You're asking a lot for my handwriting.
Please
right
remember,
here.
if you line up, you have to wait till you're at the microphone to speak. We have to have a word-for-word recording of the meeting.
Excellent. Victoria Deo, and I have to state my address as well. 27450 Georgia Street. I'd like to hear more about I think you said comments, so I don't think that I get to ask a question, but I'd like to hear more about the deficiency from the school board. I'm concerned about what this level of single family homes is going to do to the classes. My son's not in school yet, but he will be in a few years, and I don't want to see our A rating go down. I want to see us keep an A. I want to keep small class sizes. I want to keep that small town feel that you get by having an elementary, middle, and high school all together. I don't want to see that split up like it is in Briceville, where half of them go to West Nassau. I'd like to keep that small town feel in Hilliard, and that's one of the reasons we even moved here 5 years ago, is prepping for that family and prepping for that small town. So I don't know how I get more information about that deficiency fee or what the school board conversation with them was, but I'd like to hear more about that.
Okay, so I have one more thing to say to the board. Please remember that the 3 minutes belongs to a member of the public, and we're not to interrupt them. But if you would like to yield your time, I'm happy to address that for you.
Yes, I yield.
Okay, so the school board has its own set of criteria for where there's space and where there's not space. And when they say that the number of students calculated by their formula that will be there, when they say there's not room, they require the PUD, the subdivision, the development, to pay a portion of their school impact fees up front. And then the remaining portion of the school impact fees is paid with every building permit as that building permit is pulled. And this allows the school board to prepare space and classrooms before those students even have a house, before they ever arrive. But that is part of our interlocal agreement with the school board, as mentioned earlier in the staff report, and it must be complied with before final approval. That is also part of our interlocal agreement.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next.
Jacqueline Galbraith, and I live at 37217 Lorena Drive. I'd like to address Mr. Martinuzzi. I understand this is going through, and we all need to realize that. You're not going to dictate that, no, this can happen. But I would like to ask him what considerations will be made for the property owners that are already there. If we could ask for possible privacy fencing between our properties and the new subdivision, or if there could be a buffer zone between the two properties that would allow some trees and vegetation, so that I'm not looking into the yard
Miss Jackie,
with somebody right
sorry.
behind me.
you're addressing the board and you have to speak into the microphone. You can
Oh,
ask a
I'm
question that
sorry.
he can address later, but you gotta speak into the microphone so that the recording will pick up.
I'm sorry. But it's just important to us to know that our quality of life is also going to be considered in this situation. We've lived there for 24 years. We chose that property. We built our home there, because of the wooded land. We have deer that come up in the yard. We have turkeys. It's a very peaceful place to live. And we'd like to know that even though progress, is inevitable, that, there'll be some consideration for the people that already live there, and that our life will not be destroyed by, this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jackie.
Deborah Mayo, 151 Pine Street. I have a small farm down here, and this butts right up to it. And as I noticed on his presentation, there's actually red lines going across my property. I don't really understand that. Nobody's talked to me about that. I also know those are wetlands behind me, and it is a breeding ground for gopher tortoises because they end up on my property. So I don't think you can really go in there and displace those tortoises. They're a protected species. You can't do that. And I do not want the runoff from a subdivision coming on my property. I have asked this town several times to address the runoff from Southern Glen onto my property. They can't do anything. How can I trust them to take care of that? We have flooding on 3rd Street. That development gets flooded. They don't do anything about that 3 years in a row. How can we trust the town council here to do anything with this? You have to give us some feedback when we say we have runoff. We do not want to be flooded. And I really am serious about I do not want to be flooded. It looks like a beautiful development. I think it would be a great thing. I just object to being flooded. I appreciate it.
My name's Kathy Zekis. I live at 37203 Lorena Drive. I am next to the last house in the cul-de-sac on Lorena, next to Craig and Jackie Galbraith. Our backyard looks out into the woods, and we love it. We got that property because we wanted to look out onto greenery and have the animals and the nature behind us, and we enjoy sitting on the back porch. And if we wanted to live butted up to a subdivision like that, we would have moved to Yulee. My concern is, when I look at 170 homes, and I do real estate as well, when I look at 170 homes coming out onto Pine Street, that's a little country road. Didn't we just pass an ordinance where we can ride golf carts in the community and people walk their dogs up and down that street and ride bicycles, and it's already getting dangerous. When we have another 170 cars, let's just look at one house having a mom, a dad, and one child. That's 3 cars per house. That's over 500 cars a day coming in and out of that subdivision onto Pine Street. And to get out of there, they either have to go up Henry Smith, Ingham, or down to 108. Now think about when the train comes and stops for 25 minutes and the roads are backed up and we can't get out of Pine Street because now they're going to be backed up down Henry Smith. Do people want that many cars going in and out of Ingham, in and out of 108? It's a tough area. Not to mention the golf carts and the kids and the animals. And, you know, my other concern, and I know many people could probably care less, but the beautiful wildlife that's back there, all those woods now are going to be wiped out. It's going to be concrete. And it's a beautiful subdivision. We see those everywhere in Yulee, Fernandina, and I've watched it build up in Jacksonville. They're everywhere. Beautiful houses, but just so close. I get it. But all that's going to be wiped out. It's heartbreaking. It really is. I know growth is inevitable, but I really want to look out for the safety and the water flow and the flooding of the area. I guess to me, when I look at it, it's like, why Pine Street? Why is it just because there's a piece of land and they can? Because it's the bottom line. It's money. They want to make money. I get it. But I also want to address the school system that's still good, the community that's still good, this faith-based community, this close-knit community. I imagine that most of the people that are going to want to move in a place like that are going to be coming from out of state or Jacksonville area. That's just my thought, because, people that live here don't want to live in a place like that. They moved to Hilliard for a reason. We like the elbow room, we like the country, we like the property, and don't want to live in places like that. So where are all these people going to come from? Other areas. So what's that going to do to the community? I think a lot of people that already live here are going to want to get away from it.
Thank you,
So,
Ms. Kathy.
thank you.
Ms. Kathy, if you're the last, if the first page is full, you can, thank you.
Yes, my name is Mary Godwin. I'm at 3775 Lorena Drive. I'd like to first remind everyone that a decision has not been made, and I want to thank the board for your integrity and your honor and protecting the citizens of Hilliard and Nassau County. My main concern is the onslaught of traffic. You have just a couple of small neighborhoods on Pine Street, and you're adding a very large neighborhood, and we're going to begin to have trouble coming in and out of our neighborhoods. If there are at first 156 homes, which he is cited for 170, you're talking most likely around 2 cars per household, unless they have teenagers. And as their families grow, they will have teenagers. So you're looking at about 350 cars coming in and out of the neighborhood every day. And that is concerning since we only have one street light. We do have a flashing street light, but we only have one working street light. Another concern that I have is our electricity grid here. Every time the wind blows, all of our lights go out, especially on Lorena Drive. If the wind blows, if the lightning strikes, our lights are out. They could be out for 20 minutes. They could be out for 4 hours. And it's concerning when you're adding in another 156, 170 homes. Now we're adding stress on our electrical system that we haven't updated because we're still having problems. And I'm concerned about the flow of traffic. We have children who walk to school. Pine Street is not in a pickup zone. We do have a pickup on Southern Glen, but we're actually not supposed to be picked up by the bus systems. Our children do walk to school. And when you add in additional traffic, it's a concern for our children and our safety that are actually here. Our children are here. And I do appreciate his presentation. His presentation was very thought out, and his little neighborhood is very beautiful, but the inside of that neighborhood does not apply to us as citizens in this town. We don't live in that neighborhood, and we need to protect our homes and our citizens and the children who are actually here. Our infrastructure cannot handle this kind of development. Maybe the water system is going to be a good added benefit because they're going to pay for that, but that's not going to affect the homes that are already here. And so I just want to thank you guys for taking deep consideration to protect the citizens that we have now. So.
Thank you, Mayor.
Oh, 1 second. Thank you.
Good evening, honorable members of the zoning board and fellow citizens of Hilliard. I'm up here to talk also about the traffic flow.
I'm sorry.
Would you be able to state your name?
Name and address.
Oh, I'm sorry. Phyllis Godwin, and it's 37125 Southern Glen Way. So we're in one of the cul-de-sacs that'd be greatly affected. My husband and I went for a drive the other day. We drove through Whisper Ridge, the new subdivision. They've got a lot of nice little homes. I'm sure it seems like it's probably comparable to what's going to be going in. They've only sold a third of those homes. They're homes that are just sitting empty. And so I have to wonder if a new subdivision is going to go in and there's going to be empty homes sitting there. Also, another big concern, and I know that concerns a lot of us, is the traffic flow. Even with the phase one at 51 homes, you're talking about, most likely, like others have said, you're talking about over 100 cars coming in and out of just that one road. And that's kind of a big concern of ours. I don't have any problem with development. I think that owners that have property should be able to develop their property. Something that I had found, was the Florida statute, Title 10, Chapter 163. It is 163.3202. Item H, it says that with subdivisions, that you have to ensure safe and convenient on-site traffic flow. Also consider needed vehicle parking. So what we need to really be sure of is that our vehicles can get in and out of Pine Street. That's quite a few cars that'll be coming through. And I had like 342. If everybody just has 2 cars, then that's 342 cars coming in and going out of Pine Street. And so that's kind of just a big concern of ours too. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Phyllis.
Hi, everyone. My name is Asia Breyer Hedges. I live at 27150 West 13th Avenue in Hilliard. I'm here today not because I have a property that abuts to this property or because it physically affects my home in any way. I'm here to support my neighbors because I've seen properties like this and even had to defend my own property against a development similar to this one. What I have found, and it is included in the item agendas in the extended version that was published online, is that in fact a deficiency notice for the school concurrency was sent to you, sir, and that you did enter into a negotiation period that ended on 12/23 of 2024. So my question is, if no resolution has been made in that matter, how can we, in good judgment, vote to move this forward to town council or to anyone? What I didn't hear in that fantastic presentation was information about this concurrency negotiation period and what the result of that was, or if the expiration date was expired. There's also no documentation that supports that it was extended, that was filed with this. For those reasons, I think as someone who has 2 students who go to school here that hates public speaking and would rather bury herself in the back of this room, I'm here for all of the kids that are currently in Hilliard. If you look at the studies that were published in 2019, we were at 95% capacity in Hilliard Elementary. The middle senior high, of which there is only 1 building to support both, is at 100% capacity. How can we in our right mind support 2.5 on average children per household by the standards of the U.S. Census? It makes no sense. Speaking of the U.S. Census, I also did a little research there. In between 2010 and 2020, there were approximately maybe 150 households, not individuals, households that were added to this area. We are talking about doing in a couple of years what was done in 10.
I do not think that that preserves the small town feel. I do think that there are people on and off this board that stand to benefit from this development, but I do not think it is the citizens of Hilliard. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Alex Reed. I live in 37036 Southern Glen Way, and I live right next to that rectangular piece. And I was just wondering what was going to be done about flooding, because during heavy storms, my backyard floods almost halfway up my backyard. And I was also wondering what was going to be done about privacy, because I, like everyone else, I like looking out into the woods, and looking out into the woods was a big reason I moved here. So I don't want to look right into someone else's backyard, especially if they have a two-story home. So I'd also like to know about privacy fencing and stuff like that. That's pretty much it.
Good evening. My name is Lucy Pystrup. My address is 97008 Morgan's Way, Yulee, Florida. Over 35 years ago, Florida law required cities and counties to draw comprehensive land use plans for dealing with growth. City and county officials have routinely granted variances that give developers whatever they want. All too often, officials in Florida approve projects they know to be bad for the environment and their area. A quote from Mr. John Hall, former head of the Army Corps of Engineers: "Nobody has the guts to draw the line." I stand here today to tell you that you must have the guts to draw the line. Attachment A of the Hilliard Town Council Ordinance 2021-01 Comprehensive Plan 2040 states that Hilliard shall manage future development with balanced growth through implementation of land use policies that improve the quality of life and maintain the small town character of Hilliard. It also states that agricultural lands within town limits are to be developed for single-family homes at a density of 1 home per unit acre. The FEMA firm map hasn't been updated since 2010 for this area. In my opinion, this development should not be permitted as submitted. It should only be allowed as per the Comprehensive Plan 2040. Even then, the fact that there are wetlands and a flood zone to contend with should be taken into consideration so as to not impact the existing homes. Current Florida building code will cause an impact to the existing homes due to the requirements of building the houses above base flood elevation. Lumber Creek, a housing development built in Yulee on land of a similar medium with wetlands and flood zone A that has 250 homes, created catastrophic flooding to the adjacent houses. That firm map had not been updated for those homes, nor did it require flood insurance for those homes because it's all an X, much like the surrounding homes for this property. I can almost guarantee that the same thing will happen here to the surrounding homes. Developers also never take into consideration that we are a blue-collar community. These homes will likely not be very affordable for the people that live in this area. I have seen it destroy the east side of our county, and I am here tonight to hopefully prevent it from happening here where I grew up. I understand that growth is inevitable, but it must be done sensibly, and based on what I have seen, this development is not sensible. And in case it happens to come up, the Burt Harris Act does not create a property right to rezoning. So if it happens to come up, it should be a moot point. And I apologize, I am very nervous. This is my home. I've seen what's happened to the east side of our county, and I don't want it to happen here. I'm all about allowing development, but I think it should be done sensibly.
Thank you, Lucy.
My name is Richard Grant. I live at 36174 Pine Street. I understand that, this would impact the city as far as a lot of fees that come along with building homes. All the stuff that's gonna, be needed by developers, all the permits. Every time that they build a house, they got to pull a permit. I get it. I understand that the city's in to make a lot of money off of this. But as a resident here for 5 years now, I moved here because I wanted to live in a country feel. And this is going to completely dismantle everything that's here. Because with all the 170 homes, 156 homes, whatever it's going to be, you got to take into account for, it's going to come prime. It's going to come with these homes. It ain't going to be daisies and roses everywhere. It's going to create problems as well as traffic problems. That's something that's like everybody keeps talking about. It's not I don't think nobody's took into consideration yet. In a real event of emergency, everybody's not going to be able to get away. It's too many. It's going to be too many people on top of each other. So that's all I got.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Orrin McLean. I live on 37847 Henry Smith Road. I'm from Jacksonville. I moved here 11 years ago, and we moved so we could be in country. And what we see now is really devastating. FEMA on my property, devastated the back part of it as a flood area. I am surrounded, and tonight I heard so much about waterlands. I am surrounded by it. And our concern is when they build, we almost flood now. And when they build, is all that water going to come over my house and destroy my house and the livestock that we have? And I think the consideration should be for those who live around wetlands, what are they going to do? Or who's going to service it? Do we have plans for that yet? I just trust that you take it in your mind that these people who have spoken their testimonies tonight, they're asking y'all to be serious about this and look at this and seeing if all this checks out, if it's good for the town of Hilliard. Thank you, folks.
I'm sorry, sir. Can you tell me your first name again? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Leanne Harris. I live on 37185 Ingham Road. I moved here and bought my house 20 years ago to ensure the safety of my children to go to an excellent school where they would be looked after. We bring 150 families into this district. Who's going to look out? Who's going to ensure these children are safe? Can anybody tell me? Because I don't think you can. We don't know who will buy these homes. When the trailer park on Pine Street was dissolved, the traffic on Ingham Road decreased. Before then, the 30-mile-per-hour sign, the slow children at play, did not matter. There were cars flying down that road, 50+ miles per hour. There's children, they play on that road. We see them every day. Who's going to ensure their safety when 150 cars go down that road? There are people in this town now that call the cops because children are playing in the ditch when the ditch floods. Come on, you all know when 40 years ago when you were raised, every kid played in the ditch when it flooded. Everybody enjoyed it. Now the newcomers are calling cops because there are children playing on the side of the road near their house. We have 150 families coming in. Are we going to continue this? I mean, my kids have 6 years left before they graduate high school. I would hate to move out of Hilliard, my home for the last 20 years, because we have turned into Jacksonville. We have turned into Yulee. Right. So who's going to ensure? I work from home due to COVID. That is where my job sent me. You work from home now, you can do your job. Yesterday, the power went out 3 times. The wind blew. It sprinkled. What is these 150 homes going to do to that? Am I going to be forced now to drive? To be honest, my job is in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Am I going to drive to Fort Lauderdale now? No, I'm not going to drive 6 hours to go to work. I would move my whole family, which would be a crying shame. So I really want to know who's going to ensure the safety on the streets of Hilliard, who's going to ensure the safety of our children and the classrooms when they increase in size, who's going to ensure that our children are being taught properly. The teachers now know the children. I went to Mandarin Middle. There were 35 plus kids in the classroom. The teachers did not care about us. We were just another name to check off they were here. I moved and went to high school in West Nassau. The teachers cared. They knew who you were. They knew your abilities, and they knew your strengths and weakness and would help you. We will lose that as the school system grows. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amy Smith. I live at 37165 Lorena Drive. Been there for 22 years. My main concern is the water. We get flooded when it rains in our backyard. Half of our backyard gets flooded. The front yard gets flooded. And it took me almost 3 years to get the town of Hilliard to dig the ditches in the front yard. My other concern is I don't want to be looking out my back door and be looking into somebody else's back door. And according to that map, I'll be looking into 2 houses. And I don't like this at all. It's very upsetting. I feel like we're being sold out by this town council. And I do not want this coming in to our town. I don't want to be looking into somebody else's house. We have a pool in the backyard. I have my grandkids coming over. I don't want somebody on the other side looking into my yard and watching everything we do. How would you like it if somebody lived that close to you and can look into your backyard all the time? You wouldn't like it at all. And I'm very concerned about this matter. Not even include the RV park that y'all are talking about putting in down here with all the RVs coming in and out, plus the 170 homes. And then if you got 2 cars per home, all those cars coming in and out. I don't like it at all. And I think that we're being sold out. Thank you for your time.
My name is Alexandra Johnson. I live at 37206 Lorena Drive. I'm here with many of my neighbors that we live in this community that's being directly affected by this subdivision coming in. I'm not here to repeat everything that everybody's already said. I've actually written down notes of what people have said, so I'm not repeating the same things over and over. But I do want to emphasize a point that was made earlier about the fact that we only have one traffic light in this town. And if we're adding hundreds of additional vehicles, what type of cost is that going to be to this town if we have to change that caution light out for an actual red light at Henry Smith, especially considering that we're putting that large group of houses right in that area? I don't see how it could be safe to continue to have a caution light there. I think we would have to have a red light. Another issue people talked about was about the traffic going on Pine Street. Currently, we have no sidewalks on Pine Street. A point somebody made earlier was about kids walking to school. I don't know about kids walking all the way to the school from where we live, but they definitely have to walk down Pine to get to the bus stop. From Lorena Drive, our teenagers from middle school, high school, they have to walk down to the Southern Glen neighborhood to get on the bus. Our elementary schoolers have had to go north on Pine Street to get on the bus further down the other way. So we're talking about putting little kids out there on that street that we're now adding hundreds of vehicles and zero sidewalks. So what is the cost going to be to our community to put those sidewalks in to make sure that this area is safe? Also, in addition to that, talking about safety, my husband is a firefighter on Jacksonville Fire Rescue. I wonder about fire department. Would we have to eventually put in another fire department out here as we continue to build and add all of these additional houses? Same thing goes for police. Would we have to have additional police out here if we are adding all these additional people that are living in this area? So those are some of the concerns that I have. Looking at all of my neighbors and people that live in this town that are coming to this meeting, I don't think that this subdivision is in the best interest of our current community of people that live here in this town. I think it benefits the benefactors and the investors. I do not think it benefits our residents of this town. Thank you.
My name's Chad Rowe. I live at 15770 County Road 108. If y'all speed down through there, y'all probably see me yelling at y'all for. And that kind of leads into the first topic that I want to talk about is they have thrown the numbers of the vehicles. There's 70% of Americans leave for the morning time to go to work at 6, 7, 8 o'clock. Add that many vehicles right there at the intersection of Pine and Henry Smith and add it right there to the railroad tracks, then right there at the flash of caution light and right there at Winn-Dixie. You know, and we're just paving Henry Smith. You might as well plan to repave it after that because they're not doing a very good job anyways because they didn't fill in the dips. So might as well plan to repave it again correctly. You know, then you go the other way. Okay, we're going to throw them right by the school zone. It's 170 vehicles right by the school zone. Then right by the red light, you know. And several people have kids that walk. Mine walks. I'm right in there, right across from this little Cedar Haven neighborhood. I said, I'll protect my family, my own. So if it comes to it, that's what I'm doing. Then the next thing is I've had flooding bad on my property. I've been there for 20 years. It's been there bad most of the time. Finally, this year, got the county to go through and redo all the culverts down through there because they were half caved in from all the mowers. I've had to make Facebook posts. I've had to make legal, I won't call them threats, but legal recommendations. You know, something needs to happen. This water, most of these people and these investors, they don't know what it's like here during a hurricane. Been there for 20 years. I've seen several of them. On Henry Smith, there's 3 creeks. 2, which is the main big ones, right there where they're putting this neighborhood. It actually flows from the south side of Henry Smith into that area. And from 108 to Henry Smith to US 1 to 108 by the school, that is where all the water goes for within probably a mile radius. You go down Bay Road after a storm, the water flowing down that big ditch on Bay Road, where's it going? Into that center part of that whole giant square. That's where majority of the flood water goes. So you fill your tub up with water all the way to the brim, and you sit it overflows, that's what's going to happen. Everybody right around there, it's going to affect them. Water's just going to overflow where they put all that dirt to build it up 10 feet, because right now it's 10 feet below grade. And that's what's going to happen. It's just going to flood everybody else. So I called the sheriff's department once a week about people speeding down 108. My girlfriend does the same thing. Trying to get a control on people. We get like 3 deputies that monitor this whole area. What's the sheriff's department going to do? They're going to hire 10 more deputies? Because added, 170 homes, 2 to 3 people per home. What's the crime statistics on that? I'm not sure. I'm not a number person. It's going to go up. Injuries are going to go up. Everything results around that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Andy Whitaker, 27589 Georgia Street. Some of this might have been said and I didn't hear it or I haven't read it. And so I apologize if I'm being redundant. And I have some questions I know you probably can't answer. If I have time left, I'll yield and maybe you can answer them, but maybe I can read it somewhere or see it somewhere in the future. But just concerns about the water capacity system. I don't know if that subdivision is coming off this water tower here or not. If it is, I just want to make sure that it's fully considered, and with all the typical boiling notices we get right now, I don't know if that'll make it worse with so much more water coming through there, if that tower is going to feed the subdivision. Full disclosure, I have a septic tank and a drain field. I don't have sewage, but the same question, does that subdivision run into the sewage system here, and does the town have the ability to handle that capacity? I heard at some point 50 by 140 lots, and then I heard 100 by 140 lots, and I wasn't sure where it was going, but my thought is a 50 by 140 lot. I don't know if this town has any 50 by 140 lots. I live over there on Georgia Street, so I don't know what's going on in these other subdivisions. But 50 just seems small to me. That seems like a Jacksonville city kind of subdivision, not a small country town. 50 seems pretty small. So I'd be concerned about that with the country town feel. All the concerns about the traffic, I'm not a traffic designer. I can kind of count like they did or multiply and cars and people, and it just intuitively, it seems like a lot. It seems like a lot for a little town, country town like this. So I don't know if there's somebody who's looking at the traffic patterns and traffic design from an engineering standpoint. Instead of just saying, hey, great subdivision, let's put it in there. I think more consideration needs to be made to that. And is there a city policy or a state statute that requires voting board members to recuse their votes if their profession may allow them to personally benefit from 170 new homes going into the Hilliard neighborhood? And I'll yield my time. I don't know if any of those questions can be answered. If not, I will bug out.
Their board members are required to vote and council is required to vote unless they have a personal stake in what is happening right now, or the property is let's call it a 1-degree family member, father, son, husband, wife, mother, one degree. So I'll tell you, because I had to ask about this when they voted to hire me here, my brother-in-law was on the council. And he begged the attorney to not make him vote for me to be hired or not hired. As a sister-in-law, I did not qualify. I was not a close enough relation. If you do not meet the exemption, you must vote. So the only way one of these people could not vote is if they were a stakeholder in that investment group or the property as it is now.
So they could benefit afterwards. Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, Melissa, can you hold on a minute?
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Avery, did you have anything to add to the comment I just made?
Nothing further. You explained it well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Melissa.
Hi, my name is Melissa Godron. I live on 37169 Southern Glen Way. I first want to say thank you. I get emotional. I'm a stay-at-home mom. It's the biggest blessing in my life, other than my husband. This community has really helped me in my journey with the Lord. I have come to Christ. I have an amazing foundation. I lived in Jacksonville, Orange Park, all my life. Some may have called it the ghetto. I moved out here because my husband owned his house. He has lived there for 16 years. My husband and I have been married for going on 5. I have ages 16 to 3. So I have 4 children in the school system now. I worked in Clay County school system, overloaded, overfilled, not enough teachers to even employ, not enough teachers to step up and work in the portables that they added out there. That in itself is scary to think about when it comes to my children, because I want my children to feel like they're safe and protected and that they matter. Talking about the water, it feels like every other week at this moment we have a boil water advisory. That's really going to affect when it comes to putting in this line and all of this hootenanny. It feels that it's going to overwhelm what we already have. I understand we're going to add to it, we're going to grow, and I understand all of that. I have a 16-year-old who's driving. My 15-year-old is about to drive. The traffic is a huge concern. I have twin 3-year-olds. They love everybody. Anybody comes up and hugs them, but it's scary to think about my 3-year-olds walking out into our cul-de-sac and these people just coming down our cul-de-sac to turn around. We already have that issue. Speeding. Something that I don't think has been addressed is we have one grocery store. How are we going to add 4 other mouths per unit in a one, unless you're driving 30 minutes to Yulee or Jacksonville or so on and so forth? One, it's not enough. I have prayed over this very hard, and I hope that each and every one of you take into account the citizens here. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Melissa.
Good afternoon. My name is Charlie Sauls, and my address is 38800 Clyde Circle. I moved to Hilliard a little over 5 years ago. If I may, I'd like to give you a little history where I'm coming from. I lived in Dinsmore 40 years, way out Garden Street, just about to the end where Jones Road intersects. And it wasn't nothing out there when we moved out there in 1977. Was nothing there but farmland, dairy land. We built a house there, and I loved it there. Never thought I'd want to move. Well, all the dairymen started dying. I knew them all very well. I had cows and several acres. And as in 2018, they was dying out. They was old. So as they died, these farmers, their siblings sold 100 acres here, 500 here, and I'm right there in the middle with 10 acres. And I went to every civic club meeting they had, my wife and I did, and talked to the lawyers there, talk to the people like this guy's representing. See, there wasn't no stopping it. We could see that, and we put our face up for sale, and we sold it. And I moved to Hilliard, had a house built in 2019, and my wife worked at Dinsmore Elementary. I'm a retired railroad guy, and I didn't never think I'd have to move when I retired. But we moved, and give you a little scenario of what happened. They've had to pave Garden Street. They will have to pave this road here and widen it. Y'all know that. They had to build a extra unit on Dinsmore Elementary School. They built a big 2-story complex there to hold the children. Like you said, it's been said, 170 houses, and every family has at least 2 cars. It's going to be a nightmare for us, the traffic and the people. What is one problem I ain't heard addressed? People. People brings crime. And we know that. You ain't going to get every quality family in that subdivision. And I heard another couple ladies mention about privacy fence. Yeah, they will put up a fence, but when it falls down, nobody fixes it. And my suggestion is put up a barrier, a dirt barrier, 10 foot tall, and have it landscaped, and it will be there forever. And I would like to make one more comment, if I may. I would like for y'all to consider that barrier, plus let's do away with 170 homes. Let's make it an acre lot or 2 acre lots. And that's the only way to satisfy these residents here, because it's too many families there.
Can you tell me your name one more time? I missed that.
Charlie Sauls.
Charlie Sauls. Thank you, Mr. Charlie.
36800 Clyde Circle. I love Nassau County. My family's been here for 80 or 90 years. And my kids and grandkids live here, and I want them protected.
Hello, my name is Melissa Medina. I live at 37145 Lorena Drive. I'm Amy's neighbor. My husband and I, we're probably some of the newest residents in Hilliard. We bought our house 2 years ago. One of the facts that we took in consideration was we were told by the realtor and the county that we would never have neighbors behind us. It was wetlands. I'm livid because I'm at the point, if a house is going, matter of fact, 2 houses is going behind me, and we just put up a new privacy fence, but 6 foot is not going to, it's not going to shield eyes from above. And if my husband and I have even talked about it, if another house is going behind us, I mean, I get progress. We came from Callahan. We lived in Spring Lakes for many years. That is a huge subdivision. It's not a small one. With lots are an acre apart. But what happened with that one, and we lived in the middle of the demise of the HOA when it was happening, because one half of it was HOA. The other half, which was a second edition, wasn't. They were constantly fighting with each other. And because the laws weren't facilitated the way that they were supposed to, we had the power to close that HOA. Many people voted against it because they just didn't want that kind of life. When our children graduated from high school, every one of them graduated right here in Nassau County at West Nassau. We made a decision we could go anywhere. And for the price we paid for our little tiny house on Lorena Drive, we could have went anywhere. We made a decision to come here because it was further in the country, it was quiet, and nobody can build behind us. Well, our street has one way in and one way out. That is it. There's not a way through. There's not a cut through. There's nothing. And that's the same way with Southern Glen. My grandbaby comes and walks. I walk in the evenings. My neighbor over here, she walks in the evenings. We don't have a way to shield ourselves from traffic when it's coming through. And it's infuriating because on number 10, on this page that y'all gave us, is quasi-judicial hearing procedures. It says that y'all are here to serve the public interest. Well, we are the public. You know, there was a law passed. Well, not a law, but it was a Court of Appeals judicial hearing where it was overturned, where the First District Court of Appeals recent decision in Johnson versus Gulf County, case number 1D08-6189, reinforced the principle that local governments have the authority to regulate and even prohibit development within wetlands. The back of my house is a wetland, and the water just spreads. That's all.
Good evening. I'm Ben Buchanan, 37242 Lee Street. Seems this fellow from Seed is quite the devil, so I'm here to be the devil's advocate. Seems like most of the residents' concerns are misdirected at best. And I just figured I would share the knowledge that I have as a professional in the residential construction business in this area. Firstly, Pine Street is a county road. I can guarantee you that in preparation for construction of Tompkins Landing, the county's probably requiring traffic counts and traffic analysis to be made at Pine Street and Henry Smith, at Henry Smith and Old Dixie, at Henry Smith and US 1, and likely Pine Street and 108. As a minimum standard, this community will be required to have a city sidewalk for its frontage on Pine Street. If you want more city sidewalks on Pine Street, talk to your county commissioner. Secondly, the struggle with the finances involved with putting a light in at Henry Smith and US 1. Henry Smith's a county road, US 1's a state road, and that wouldn't cost the town of Hilliard one dime. I just pulled a permit to build a house. I'd like to share with you the fees associated with that permit collected on every new residential rooftop built in Nassau County. This thing's getting played like members of this board or members of the city commissioner are having their palms greased. It ain't happening. Here's where your money's going. School impact fees. Every house built in Nassau County pays school impact fees, $5,340.60. If you can't put a desk in a classroom for over $5,000, you got a problem. Talk to your superintendent. Fire rescue impact fees, $411. Multiply that times 170, that'll probably buy an ambulance. Law enforcement impact fees, $299 times 170, that'll put police on the streets. All I'm saying is your concerns are misdirected. This property, based on the land use code, allows for 6 residences per acre. This man's coming here asking for half that density, and everybody acts like it's the end of the world. Thank you.
My name's Roger West. My address is protected, but it's on file. Ditto to most everything that's been said tonight at this podium. This development is going to do absolutely nothing positive for the town of Hilliard and the citizens of Hilliard. Development is, what's the word for it? There's nothing good from a development. Go to Yulee. See what development is about. It's going to ruin our town. It's a long known fact that politicians love tax dollars. But it's a proven fact that rooftops do not pay for the necessary services that are going to be required from these 170 homes. This is going to be a liability to us that have been paying taxes for years here in Hilliard. And we're not going to see any benefit. Another thing that this is personal, I guess, it irks me. Item 1 on your agenda
states, Planning and Zoning Board recommendation to the Town Council for approval of ordinance 2025-01. Should that not be say, consider? This is saying y'all are going to approve it. Y'all have already approved it. Further down on your agenda, you have a form that states, now I ran this copy off January 2nd. It says, whereas the Town of Hilliard Planning and Zoning Board has reviewed the proposed rezoning of the subject property, the PUD, and found it to be consistent with the town's comprehensive plan and the town's code, and recommend approval to the Town Council of rezoning the subject property at their January 7th meeting. You've already published that you've approved it. How can you do that? Y'all seem to be making us fools. You bring us up here, you parade us in front of you, give our opinion, and right here says you've already approved it on January, I don't know when you did it. January 2nd is when I read it off Town of Hilliard's website under the zoning board's agenda. That just seems wrong.
Wait till the end. My name is Robert Simpkins. I live at 38314 Oak Grove Drive here in Hilliard. My wife is the District 4 school board member that represents this area. And while we were on the campaign trail, we got to go into a lot of these subdivisions in Yulee. And one of the things I wanted to point out that was not on there, they talked about a school bus stop in front of the subdivision. There's 156, 170 homes planned, expecting 1 to 2 children per home. Parents don't generally let their kids walk and sit at bus stops anymore. They have huge problems in the Million Walk and Northampton areas because people take their children up to the bus stops and sit with them and park. I didn't see anywhere on the plan that allowed that to happen. So that may be something you need to consider. I only bring that up because it wasn't brought up by anybody else here. But if you don't plan for that, that will be a problem in the future. I can absolutely assure you. And that's all I got.
Thank you.
Hey, my name is Josh Bruton. I live at 36116 Pine Street. So everybody's mentioned the traffic problems. I didn't know, since you can answer some of our questions, what is the solution to the traffic? Me and my 5-year-old ride our bike down that street. People speed up and down that street. What are you going to do for us? A sidewalk? I don't want a sidewalk. I moved from Jacksonville. I moved out here to get away from that. I was going to yield my time and see if you can answer that.
I will tell you that part of the process will be a Nassau County driveway permit. And Mr. Buchanan is right. There's an extensive traffic study that's involved with that. I can also tell you that this year Pine Street is on the list of approved items to, number 1, be widened, and number 2, be resurfaced, and number 3, have sidewalks by Nassau County all the way from one end to the other. That is a county road, and we rely on the county to make requirements for their own road.
So can I speak on that real quick? About you widen that road. So when you widen that road, you bring it closer to my house.
3 feet.
I don't care if it's 3 feet, 5 feet, or 2 feet. You still bring it closer to my house.
Within the right of way that they already own.
I understand that, but I don't want the road closer to my house.
Okay.
There's enough people speeding down that road. And a lot of these people know it's not safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Nicholas Godron. I live at 37169 Southern Glen Way. I just wanted to comment on the being told to speak to your school board member, speak to your county commissioner member. That's all stuff after the fact. How about we speak to the town council and prevent all that from having to be done at all? We've elected these people to represent us and protect us as a town rather than have to go to after the fact. That's what these people's jobs is to do, right? That's what we're here for. That's why we're all here. That was just my rebuttal to the devil's advocate. Thanks.
Any other public comment? And at this point, then we will allow the applicant to make any final statements or comments that may or may not address some of the things that we heard tonight. Or
I would like to, because there are definitely some design considerations that can be given to deal with the comments. If we could put the site plan up that I had, if we could go back to that. But while I'm waiting on that, one of the things I wanted to kind of say is I moved to North Florida 4 years ago. And I agree with everyone here that North Florida, the faith and everything that's here has helped me very much also in my Christian journey. And the only thing I would really hope is that many of you who spoke that have moved here within the last 10 years moved to Hilliard because of your views of its values, its schools, and everything else it has to offer. And realize that many of the people, while I can't guarantee all, of the people that move in this community will be good people that will be moving here for the same reason that you did. Could we go to the one that has color, please? So the biggest concern, and I had actually had the opportunity to speak with Jacqueline before the meeting, that people have is about the views and losing the vegetation. I know there's been some discussion about a privacy fence. People would want a privacy fence. I had actually told Jacqueline that one of the considerations would also be that because these are nice 140-foot deep lots, typically the houses that we would put on these lots, we could do on a 120. So we have an extra footage there. So if you wanted to take it into consideration, one of the things that we could put if we were going to do a subject to modification, along the property that abuts the two lines, I have a 10-foot building restriction setback, which would include pools, any accessory structures. We could, along those two subdivisions, we could easily take that 10 feet and make it 20, which would allow for a lot more vegetation. I could also say that along those two property lines, we could do either or a 10-foot undisturbed buffer so that all the natural vegetation that's there would stay, or a privacy fence. And the reason why I'm hedging on that is contrary to possibly subdivisions that were built 20 years ago, today, subdivisions that we do are under extreme scrutiny by the St. John Water Management District. We have to really contain any water that we do. So while I would love to just say I'm going to do a 10-foot non-building buffer that we're just not going to change vegetation, it's not really easy to do it until we have all the engineering. Because if for some reason the way it's engineered, if we're pushing water to there, we have to impact that so that we can make sure all of the grading works to meet what the requirements of the St. John Water Management District, which your engineer will also review redundantly on everything we do. So we could also look that it could be either or, that we would put along those two subdivisions, no matter what, we can go, instead of a 10-foot setback, we could take it up to 20 feet as item number one. Number two could be that we would either either or. On top of that, in addition, put up a 6-foot privacy fence or a 10-foot, let me use the correct word, non-development zone buffer zone. Okay, I mean, it doesn't mean we wouldn't do underbrushing and clear out some of the dead debris or anything, but we would say, we would, try to do the best that we could. So I wanted to, that's a very easy one to address, and it had been discussed. And actually, Jacqueline had told me she wasn't sure she was going to speak, and I told her, please put it on the table, let it go, because I'm prepared to deal with it, and to hopefully give you a result that, I'm not saying it's going to be perfect, but we're definitely willing to design with those considerations.
Excuse me, we can't talk outside of your opinion.
The other thing that was just brought up is the sidewalk along Pine Street. I would agree with the gentleman that most likely when we go, because it is a county road, they're going to require us to put a sidewalk. Typically, Nassau County requires that the sidewalks be in there right away. It does not show it on the plan because it's technically outside of our property. But if we could do the sidewalk based on when we see the Nassau County plans, we can definitely do a sidewalk along the front of our property, whether it's on our property, buried a little bit in the trees for privacy, but we could do that, which would help the kids from Lorraine get to our bus stop. They say that they're already going to Southern Glen, that bus stop. Our bus stop would be much closer. It would keep them off Pine Street a lot further. We can consider that. Just in case we didn't talk about it, as we have it planned, there would be a shelter. The Nassau County School Board now requires us to put shelters. So we just put a little bigger shelter, just so that, if there's rain or conditions. We also do, even though, that's why I wanted that up. I want it to be shown that there is parking on both sides of the entry of the sub. That parking is to facilitate picking up mail and also for the bus stops. That is a calculation based on this, based on the number of homes. And when the Nassau County School Board determines what they believe will be the impact of children, they will tell us exactly how many parking spaces we have to have per house. I believe right now I'm doing 100 lots in a subdivision, and I think we had to put in 6 or 7 parking spaces. So we have about 7 shown here. We might have to increase that, but that would be considered and that would be required also. And that's something that's not shown, but will be shown and will be required. And we're also willing, if you wanted to make that a condition, that we put a sidewalk along Pine Street from property end to property end. I'm fine with that, if that would help. Although I realize there's some people who don't want a sidewalk. That's why I'm willing to put it on our property, keep it off of the right of way so it's not so obvious. If I have just a few more notes I'd like to make. The HOA, we can also make sure, I know that if we put a privacy fence, some people were concerned. In our HOA documents, it is mandatory that those fencing along those lines, we put it under the HOA because we do not want, especially with phasing like this, that this could take 3, 4, 5 years to build this out. We do not want fences going down. We don't want them not maintained. So we put them under the purview of the HOA. As you'll know, all the stormwater management is under the HOA and the roads are under the HOA. So the burden upon Hilliard is not there. The only thing that Hilliard will have responsibility for is the sewer and the water. And that's because you will own it. Because we're putting it for you, it's not private. So that would be the only thing, and that's not really a burden, as I know that the one gentleman talked about the fees that are paid. We are, to be clear, many a times when people extend water lines, they want a credit against tap fees, against impact fees. We are not asking for that. That's not written in the PUD. Okay, we are extending that line as a benefit to Hilliard, and as we build houses, we understand that we will be paying the sewer and water connection fees or whatever fees everyone else pays. We're not asking for any credit against that. I can't do anything about the electrical. I can tell people that our electrical utilities will be underground. So if there's storms, hurricanes, nothing within our community, if it's looped into their properties, we shouldn't affect them. Again, I know there were a lot of people who want 1 acre lots as ag. That just is our obligation, or at least it's my belief that our obligation is to present evidence that we are in compliance with the future land use map, your plan. As one person did indicate, we are well under what the master plan for Hilliard shows that property to be. That's because it's a PUD. We lost a ton of land because as a PUD, while we do have the ability to do more clusters, we lose the ability to develop all the land because we have to reserve the 20%. I know that there were some people to the south that were talking about water. I had anticipated that in my presentation. I tried to talk about the fact that our water has to be retained on that site. That's a lot of stormwater for 150 houses. In perspective, I would like it to be understood that both subdivisions next to us comprise of approximately 56 houses. Their stormwater is, which would be essentially about 1/3 of this community. If you look at the land designated for stormwater on their property, they're not even 1/10 of what we have. Our stormwater on this site, because we were able to take the stormwater and make it a architectural feature within by having the walking trail going through it and things, we were actually, it was beneficial for us to put extra stormwater in. So, and then again, city engineers will be looking at it, St. John Water Management District will be looking at it.
Sir, I do just want to interject, just going off our quasi-judicial hearing procedures, the time for final comment has expired.
Thank you, ma'am. I yield. Thank you.
All right, our next item would be to allow our land use administrator to make any final comments.
I want to make it clear that what I just asked Alicia, our timer for our recording is set to expire at 10 p.m. and we still have several things on the agenda after this. So I've asked her to work on extending that. I wanted to say out loud what I was whispering to her to make it, put it on the record. My only comment for public hearing purposes would be that part of the application and part of the process going forward is to make sure that every application is compliant with all state regulations, all state boards, all county regulations, all interlocal agreements, fire, police, roads, schools, environmental, gopher turtles, stormwater, all of those things are part of the process. And there's lots of people in this room that have built things in the last couple of years. They can tell you and attest to you that we make them do all the things. We make them do everything that is required on every application, every time. We've been in this process for a long time. And there is a lot more to come that they have to meet requirements for. If they can't meet requirements for stormwater, they won't be able to build all those houses. If they can't meet fire flow, they won't be able to build those houses. If Nassau County says they have to do X, Y, and Z to the road and they choose not to, they will not be able to build those houses. Whatever the school board says they owe to make the school prepared for any kids that might come, they will have to pay in advance or they cannot build those houses. That is all part of the required process. And I encourage all of you to go to the published agenda on the website tonight to the packet and find the ordinance and read the attachments. The written description of the PUD addresses a lot of the concerns that you said tonight. If the ordinance is adopted, that becomes the zoning law for this PUD. That's how PUDs work. So I encourage you to go look at that and read over that. Remember, this board tonight will make a recommendation to the council. They still have 2 public hearings before it is adopted. So you still have lots of opportunities. Think about what was said tonight, study the material that's out there, and come make comment again. All of you who've received a letter, you've already gotten another letter with the next 2 days. I mailed them out on the 31st. You're welcome to always come and give public comment. And I know the room is really full. We appreciate your patience. We love it when public participates. Come every time.
So we will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I second.
Ms. Lawson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Fry?
Yes.
Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Public hearing is now closed. This now allows the board to ask some questions, make some discussion. I would only like to.
One more thing, I'm sorry. Before we do that, Miss Avery, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Did anything presented by the public reach the threshold for substantial evidence to be considered by the board?
No, the only competent substantial evidence that can be considered by the board is the evidence that was specifically entered during the hearing. That's going to be composite exhibit A, which is the staff reports, the ordinance 2025-01, the advertisement for ordinance 2025-01, the application for PUD, the concurrency application, the NCSB notice of sufficiency, and the Tompkins Preserve notice of negotiations, and composite exhibit B, which is going to be the presentation presented by the applicant. Those are the competent substantial evidence for which the board must base its findings on.
Thank you. Mr. Kevin, can you minimize the presentation so we can see Ms. Avery? And also, we have 3 requests to speak on the item. The people who filled those out have all already spoken, but you do have the opportunity to speak now during board discussion. Ms. Asia, you want to speak now again, or have you? Okay, you're welcome to come. You'll have 3 minutes.
My question is for the town attorney. I know that the evidence that I presented is already a part of this agenda. What I didn't hear anyone answer, not the applicant or any of you just yet, is what's been done. The negotiation period ended last year, 12/23 of 2024. Has it been extended? Has anybody made a decision or reached a decision? Those questions weren't answered, and I think it's important. I do not think that it is in public interest, and I don't think that it follows the growth plan for Hilliard based on the fact that they were denied. Thank you. I'll yield my time if you'd like to answer that question.
I'll be happy to answer your question. So the negotiation is between the development and Nassau County School Board.
Mhm.
And at the end of that time, Nassau County School Board assigns them a dollar amount. And we are not allowed to do a final pass at the final council meeting until it is paid to Nassau County School Board and a receipt is provided to us. That's what our interlocal agreement states. That's what the school board has requested of us, and we comply with that. We don't know what that amount is until the school board notifies us.
Okay,
They've not
I'd like
notified
to
us.
reclaim my time now. Thank you. You've answered the question, asked and answered. However, it does not answer the question if that has been extended. That negotiation period is now over. I do not understand how this board or the town council can even propose or move this along the tracks without having those questions answered. When your elementary school is at 95% capacity and the middle senior high school is at 100% capacity. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. All right, Mr. Roger, you also provided a paper. Would you like to speak or you've already, okay. And Mr. Oren also provided a paper, but I think I saw him leave and he did speak during the public hearing. Okay, thank you so much. All right, it's now time for board, for you to deliberate and ask any questions that you have from myself or Mr. Randy.
And the only thing I would start out by saying is that we have had multiple workshops. A lot of, almost every single solitary concern was brought up either by council or by our planning and zoning board, and we have worked with that. The PUD process does allow us a lot more flexibility as boards and the town to define and decide and make adjustments and changes, which we would not always potentially have with outside of a PUD. So that is just a comment that I would like to make. Is there any comment from the rest of the board?
Questions and discussion amongst them.
I do have a couple of questions for Mr.
Oh,
Martin.
I'm sorry, real quick. I did have a question. The pond, stormwater pond retention, is there a plan to have that fenced? I know we talked about it briefly in the workshop, but I don't remember what was that final decision, since there is so much water there.
There's multiple ones. We typically don't fence them because we don't, stormwater, typically you can do a 1 to 4 slope until the first 3 feet, and then you can adjust down to a 3 to 1, and eventually, which you almost never do because you don't want to lose the sides of it, and it would require extra maintenance. You can go to a 2 to 1 slope, and I haven't been involved in anything that's gone 2 to 1 because just no one wants to build it and take on the potential if you have problems with the sides of it. I just don't recall that from the workshop. I don't know if that was, I was not at the first one. That was Mr. Moldavin. If that was with me, I don't recall it. I don't have an objection. We expect in what we put within our CNRs, covenants and restrictions, is that any property that abuts a stormwater management pond must put a black picket fence. We don't allow them to do privacy fences because we don't want them to block the view of their neighbors. I will say because of dogs and everything, pretty much every subdivision we do where we're along those fences, people are putting the black privacies. So it would almost be redundant for us. I'm not saying it couldn't be part because we're the developer and the contractor. So if there's a stormwater pond that you're really worried about, that could be looked at, and I could address that and maybe handle that later at the next meeting with the city council if they so need. I would have been prepared, and I'm not because I missed it, if that was a concern.
Mr. Martinuzzi, from both the Loretta Drive and Southern Glen, they're outfall pipes that come on to your property. You will be picking that up in your stormwater system?
100% we will. That's written into the PUD. That was part of the red language. That was something that was talked at a workshop, that we have to do that to make sure that they don't back up and that they don't lose the integrity of their ponds. And like I said earlier, I know that with the Southern Glen, there's some water. I'm not sure whether it's an engineering problem, what the problem is. That lower southwest pond is very large. I might be, if the wetlands are less than I think, I might be able to enlarge it so I could add a little extra capacity so that if they have flooding, maybe it'll make its way into our, and I could even put a catch basin on the property line to take it into our stormwater, which may help them. And I think the biggest person who was really impacted was Miss Mayo. She spoke. She's to the large parcel that's south of Southern Glen, and I will do that. This will not be the first time. We will do that. I don't know if you want to write it in the PUD, if you feel, or if we need to, we can do that.
And all your grading along your property lines abutting to both sides will be graded accordingly as to pick up any excess water and carry it back to your stormwater system.
Sure. We typically do an A lot, which means all the water comes to the street. Or if we end up with a B lot, that means all the front water goes to the street, which goes to stormwater. Or based on current land design codes of the St. John Water Management District, we would have a swale along the back of the properties with basins to pick up any water along the back and to take it to the stormwater pond. I'm hoping that we can do A lots, because if I can make it work with A lots, then that gives me the ability to put that 10-foot buffer, undisturbed buffer, keep the vegetation, a lot of the trees that are there. Most of it's pines. As you know, this is timber property. So I don't know how long ago the Cassidy family replanted to do pines. I don't know if it's been timbered in 20 years. I don't know that history. But either, whether it's an A lot or a B lot, we will have basins to either catch it on the front end or at the street and move it down to the stormwater pond. Anything else, sir?
I think that probably will cover it.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
Only thing I had was, I hear them talking about traffic. And especially my most important thing, I don't want the development to impact the people that's already living there. So when we talking about the flooding and stuff like that, when you do whatever you got to do with your building, it's not going to impact the people there. Already there, you got with your runoff and everything.
Correct. We are like, I don't know if I can say it. Everything has gotten so sophisticated. So maybe the subdivisions that were designed 20 years ago, 25 years ago, some of the problems that I don't know how old Southern Glen is, whether it's 10 years, but I think it's much more than that. It's 20 years. And it might also be management. Maybe there's culverts back there that are supposed to be catching that water that aren't being managed. I am telling you unequivocally, the HOA, this will be in the HOA. There will be fees so that our culverts will be managed. So if there are culverts back there, you're not going to have the same problem because they're going to be managed. They're going to be maintained. And that'll be part of the St. John Water Management District permit. It's built right into it and it's required.
Mr. Reed or Mr. Webb, comments?
I actually do have just one more. And you're not adverse to putting sidewalks across the front of the property?
Absolutely not. I actually believe it's going to be required. My big fight would be, based on what I heard, is how deep into my property can I do it versus putting it on the right of way, so that we maybe keep the rural feel. But we are not adverse at all. And I just so you know, I think because it's a county road, 5 foot will be required.
What about turning lanes?
That will be the traffic study. I do not expect a right deceleration in any respect. At 150 homes, I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be required. The traffic study, I'll get it engaged, but I will not have the results by February. It's 45 days to get a traffic study. It wasn't required for this. It will be required as we start the engineering design phase and when we go through for permitting of the road, as was explained.
That's all I have. All right. Sounds like final comments from our board. We will move forward with the deliberation of the application and the agenda item. with a recommendation to approve or deny.
I'm sorry, Ms. Wendy, I won't interrupt here. You as a board have the ability to recommend to the council approval, recommend to the council denial, or recommend to the council approval with additional conditions. I am asking that you include the condition in your motion that the Nassau County School Board deficiency amount be paid prior to the final approval by the town council. So if you have other requirements that you like, please include them in your
Even though we
motion.
do not have the final number, final figure from a Nassau County board.
No, they will provide it to us, and then the development will provide us a receipt showing that they paid it.
So just the recommendation should include whatever that deficiency.
That it will be paid prior to.
That fee, is that public information?
It will be when it's finalized.
So that if they wanted to public information, the school board for it, they could?
They could if it's finalized.
Okay.
The school board may have asked for an extension. The last couple of times we did one of these, the school
I'm
board was
more
not
than willing to be
prepared.
transparent on that.
Okay.
The fee that was requested, we accept that fee. There's a standard form that we do with the school board, so it's not even really, you just put the numbers into the form. I don't have those numbers with me. And those numbers might be based on 170 houses. We would probably adjust those numbers down with the school board. And when I spoke with the school board about it, we go in for 170. We assume the worst. We want everyone to know the worst. We would, there's a sliding scale. Once you have the reservation, your fees are calculated. So we would probably just pay on the 150 or some number around there. And as stated, the big advantage to the school system is that we pay that fee years before the houses are built. So it gives them time if they need to add a classroom or do whatever they need to do. So I can't say that we're going to pay the fee on 150. I can't say we're going to do it on 170. That was after this meeting. I'll be talking to the school board again, but that fee will be determined and it's set. And then on top of that fee, so that's the money they get up front. And then as somebody said, I think the school board fee right now is $5,300 per house. And my understanding is that's actually going up. I spoke with somebody in finance at the school board, and they said that this year they're going to be doing a resolution to raise that. So, and then all those fees go directly to the school board, and they're supposed to be used strictly to build classrooms for infrastructure classrooms, doing those classrooms. That I have no control what they do with the money once we give it to them.
Thank you. All right. Again, any further comments from the board? We will entertain a motion to approve or deny the recommendation to the town council based on what we've discussed, with conditions, without conditions. Never received it.
Based on what we're actually allowed to consider, as much as I'd like to consider everything that we've heard, I feel that we need to, for legality reasons, we need to make a motion to approve.
To approve the recommendation to the town.
Approve the recommendation, the town board with these stipulations as said by the meeting's administrator.
There's a motion.
I'll second that motion.
Second, Ms. Lawson, second. Ms. Lawson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Frye?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
No.
Mr. Webb? All right. So we have concluded, item number 1. We will be moving to the regular meeting. You all are welcome to stay. It's mostly housekeeping items for the rest of our meeting. I appreciate everyone's participation. Do we wait until?
That's up to you, Madam Chair.
Okay.
With regard to the question of the legality of it, what do you mean by
The quasi judicial procedures state that we have to comply. It's item number.
Avery, can you hear her question?
I cannot. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry,
Please-
Casey, I'm gonna need you to come to the microphone.
Okay, with regard to the legality of it, as far as approving or denying,
He's saying competent, substantial evidence presented tonight. That the motion has to be based on the competent, substantial evidence presented tonight.
okay. Okay. All right.
That's this Florida statute. She's asking why they weren't notified about competent, substantial evidence.
That's
You're gonna
the
have to come to
standard.
the microphone so the attorney can hear you as well. And this will be our last question. We'll have to move forward.
I
And then
understand.
there's public comment time again at the very end.
I understand. Actually, it was directed to the board. When we first came in, you guys said from today that will be implemented. Why wasn't the community notified ahead of time so that we could properly prepare a rebuttal of this?
So I'm sorry. So first, competent, substantial evidence of rezoning is a state requirement.
Mhm.
Second, the board reviewed rules and procedures for all of its meetings, including quasi judicial hearings. They reviewed that in their November meeting, which was publicly noticed, and they adopted that in their December meeting, which was also publicly noticed.
Which is why it went
And-
into effect.
And
And
we
these-
found that it was to the best interest of the meeting to ensure that it was read aloud. So they have been made available, whether.
I understand. I just wanted to ensure that it wasn't something that was being put out because the people are upset. So if it was something that you guys did previous before now,
Yes, ma'am.
then
We've been
I
working on
understand.
it for months.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And trust me, I know people are upset.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
understand their concerns.
Yes, sir. Our
And
property is
as we
flooded.
move forward, we will all look at everything we can to make sure
Yeah.
and ensure
Yes,
that it's done.
I understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 2 of our regular meeting, we have any additions or deletions to the agenda as stated?
No, ma'am.
No, thank you. And item number 3, Planning and Zoning Board approval of site plan application 2024-0924, parcel ID 083N24238000230021, applicant Henry Bork, Day Springs Health LLC, and Miss Olson.
I will do that happily. Give me a minute to rearrange my desk. Okay. Planning and Zoning Board approval of site plan application 2024-0924, parcel ID 083N 24238000230021, applicant Henry Vorp, Dayspring Health LLC. His background, the documents provided for your review this evening is Town Code Section 6240, site plan review with staff comments in blue, site plan application 2024-0924, civil plans for parcel ID 083N24238000230021, which were updated and submitted December of 2024, and owner's authorization for an agent, an FDEP 10-2 permit, which addresses stormwater, proof of ownership via a SunBiz document provided by Dayspring Health, Mid Tower, which is our engineering firm, review of the plans that were submitted in September of 2024, comments and response of the reviews by the Dayspring Health Team, Town of Hilliard review of the plans submitted in September of 2024, comments and response of those comments in response to the reviews by Dayspring Health. Henry Gorp of Dayspring Health submitted site plan application in September of 2024 following a review by the town staff and Mid Tower. The applicant made all required updates. The parcel is zoned C1 commercial and has a flume designation of commercial. The project is consistent with the zoning and future land use. The project will need the following documents: a Town of Hilliard driveway permit for the curb work planned in the right-of-way of West 6th Street, a Town of Hilliard plumbing permit for the hose bibs planned for irrigation on the property. The permit will include a short tap fee as well as a system development fee. The project has complied with the landscape requirements written in Article 11 of the Land Development Regulations. With board approval, on-site hose bibs for watering in place of underground irrigation. This is the recommendation of the Acting Public Works Director, Corey Hobbs. Town Code 62-568-4C says that the Planning and Zoning Board may require or otherwise approve water supply provisions for unusual landscaping conditions, provided, however, that a readily available water source shall be located within 100 feet of any required landscaping material. Financial impact: all expenses will be paid by the applicant. Staff recommendation: staff recommends approval of site plan application 2024-0924 with the following condition: the remaining 2 permits be submitted to the town for approval prior to the start of construction on the items covered by those permits. And then the next document in your packet is the actual town code for 6240, which speaks specifically about site plan review. And then my comments are in blue regarding them meeting the requirement for that portion of the code. And the only thing here that I would like to say, and it's also in the Town of Hilliard notes, is on this property, there's no sewer utilization. The only reason for water on the property is because we require landscaping and we require them to irrigate that landscaping. So Mr. Corey Hobbs, our Acting Public Works Director, suggested that because it's such a small parcel, instead of asking them to put an entire underground irrigation system, which has the potential to overuse water, because of the size of the property, you allow them to just put a few hose bibs that will be within 100 feet of any required landscaping, and they will utilize that to maintain the trees and shrubs that they're required to plant on the property. The applicant and the property that he's agent for is present. If he has anything he'd like to say, if you have any questions for him. And I have big plans, big copies of the plans.
Thank you for your patience. Skip track.
Yeah, Henry Holt.
I have to sign a set of you.
I do have one question. So there is going to be a water tap there on the property for
Correct. Water is in front of us.
for like the 4-foot handle lever hydrants.
Yes, they're, we've spaced them every 50 foot so they can water.
That's all
the
I
plants.
need to know.
And it's Henry Vorp, AVA Engineers, 4201 Bay Meadows Road, Jacksonville. So if you have any questions, it's a small boat and RV storage yard, open storage yard. It's going to be gravelled or asphalt at Mr. Atkins, whichever method he chooses to stabilize the surface. Fenced and screened in the front, and then landscaping around the whole project. Right there off 6, just slightly west of US 1, right adjacent to the railroad track. So there's no water, there's no sewer on the project, there's no buildings. There's 2 small little utility things that nobody even knows who they own, what they are. They're like 10 by 10. So he's checking in.
And you're going, I can talk to you. St. John's is working with you on.
We've already got the permit for that. Yes, sir. Yeah, and we've already been through the review. We've already been through the review with Mid-Tower and did all the town's comments and Mid-Tower's comments.
And I'll make my own personal comment. I would love to see a blacktop. Just my own thoughts on it.
It's a lot more money.
I understand that. I fully understand that. I'm just a blacktop kind of guy.
It can be for the permit, and I'm sure sooner or later, when Mr. Atkins collects a whole lot of money for people storing stuff, he'll probably have it asphalted.
That are at least millings. Millings are almost as expensive, I know. But it would be nice to see millings there instead of crushed concrete or something. Just a thought. Take it all into consideration, sir.
Any other comments from the board?
All done.
Okay. So we will, entertain a motion to approve the site plan.
Not for this item.
Right.
I have 3 and they are for item 1. I don't have any submittals for item 3.
No. Oh. She did try.
Okay, sure, come on up.
Come on up.
Shall I announce who I am again?
Yes, ma'am, and can I have your paper?
Okay, you say one.
But, it was
And I will say really quick to go back very quick to the item around the school board. If you'll look in the packet on page 75 and 76 of 129, does have some documentation from the school board and that process. So that might be something that you would want to see. Those that are concerned about school.
Oh, are you referencing? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm sorry. I was
That's
just
okay.
happened to see it and I
Of
wanted
course.
to
Can I
bring it up.
clarify, are you speaking to me? Because I referenced those pages from the agenda specifically, I read them.
Oh, okay.
Actually.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Mary.
Yes, ma'am. Mary Godwin, 3775 Lorena Drive. Is this in reference to the assisted living facility, or is this a whole nother? Okay, so we're not discussing an assisted living facility. This is a facility boat ramp that is going to be accommodating Day Springs. I mean, obviously, it's theirs. What is it that we're doing?
No.
It's
Oh.
vacant land that will be used for storage of
Right.
boats and RVs, period.
Oh, not a boat ramp, but a storage. Okay, okay, that was all. Thank you.
All right, then, if there are no further comments, we will move to make a recommendation for approval or denial of the site plan application 2024.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay,
I second it, please.
second, Ms. Lawson,
Yes.
Mr. Pride.
Yes.
Mr. Reed.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
And Chair votes yes.
All right, give me just a minute, please. I need to sign these. So, Mr. Henry and Mr. Atkins can get on their way.
Thank you very much. I think you'll be impressed when we're all done. It'll be a nice RV boat storage facility for the town. It'll be nice.
All right, Mr. Henry, this is yours. Yes, you're gonna take 2 and I'm gonna keep 1.
So-
Hang on, Skip, I gotta sign that one.
When would we be able to commence construction activity?
In the morning, everything but what's required by the driveway permit and what's required by the plumbing permit. You gotta pull those permits to start that.
The site contractor can go ahead and start in the
You
morning.
can, and then you can file for a driveway permit tomorrow, and you can file for a plumbing permit as soon as you have engineered drawings of those hose bills and where those pipes go on the property.
That'll be Henry. Very good. Thank you. Y'all have a great, happy
And
New Year.
I want to say for the record, I had a typo in an email that I sent to this group, and they showed up last night for this meeting thinking that it was last night. I want to publicly apologize for that. I did not know that there was a typo until I received their emails that I saw them today at noon. I'm very sorry.
There is lots of.
Thank you for patiently waiting for us this
You
evening.
are
I
a
appreciate it.
busy group of people, and there's lots of grace for mistakes. So thank you.
very much.
Thank you. God bless. Have a good day.
Next, we have a very exciting item. Item number 4 is the Planning and Zoning Board recognizing one of our own 20 years of service. And this board is a service board, believe me, not paid and not, or not compensated in that sense. So we would like to recognize one of our own, Ms. Josetta Lawson, for 20 years of service to this board. And I think
Ms. Josetta, you have to go up front and get some pictures. She gets a basket.
Kenny can
and she
afford
counts.
it. Kenny makes more money. He can afford his own.
I would just like to say this lady has been, it's taught me a lot, and I'm close to 20. I mean, that's a big deal. But we definitely appreciate you and all of your service.
Yes, you do right. I'm sorry. Let me get out of the picture. Oh, you were fine. We just get the. She was talking.
Lord.
Miss Lawson's
Talk to
family.
me like that.
And they
Good Lord.
probably put up with a lot.
Will y'all come forward and let us get a picture with you all?
Yes, and I just want to thank them for coming tonight, especially my brother. Oh, that's my oldest brother.
I wonder because I saw the resemblance.
And his name is Kenneth Howard. That's my husband, Marvin Lawson, which everybody knew him. And this is my oldest sister, Cheryl.
Yes.
Y'all come on up here and get a picture with Miss Josetta.
And I want to let you know I saw you put your door.
Oh, y'all go slide down, get the.
Act like you like each other.
Come on.
Snuggle up now, it's cold.
It is cold. Thank y'all. Thank y'all.
Okay, you want one side and leave of the other.
And I just
kick me
want
in
to
the
say,
shit.
I am a giver, I'm not a sender. Thank y'all.
All right, we still do have a meeting to finish. We have a couple of housekeeping items. Next on our agenda is every year we vote our chair and our vice chair for the upcoming year. And we do that in January, so this is the item on the agenda for now.
When there is staff report, you just want to go for it.
Do you have a staff report?
Of course I do.
Okay.
Okay, planning and zoning board to select chair and vice chair for 2025. The board annually in January selects the chair and vice chair for the planning and zoning board, town code 6292-1, officers and voting. Annually, at the January meeting, the planning and zoning board shall select a new chairperson and vice chairperson from among its members, with all such officers serving a term of 1 year. All members of the planning and zoning board shall vote on all matters before the planning and zoning board, except where absent or must abstain as required by section 112.3143 of Florida statutes. Votes shall be recorded by roll call. In January of 2024, the planning and zoning board selected Ms. Wendy Prather for chair of the board and Mr. Charlie Reed as vice chair. At the last regular town council meeting in December, Skip Pratt and Charlie Reed were reappointed for a 3-year term beginning January 2025 and ending December 2027. In January 2025, the board will need to select a chair and a vice chair. There is no financial impact on the town for this action, and staff recommendations that you select a chair and a vice chair in 2 separate motions to be voted on. Pretty please.
I'll make a motion to nominate Wendy Prather again. I think she did a fine job all year, and with the town growing and more meetings like tonight's meeting, I think we need someone that is
Articulate.
yeah.
I don't ever go to meetings, right? So.
I will second that motion.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Pride?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Webb?
Yes.
I would like to make a motion for Mr. Pride to, step into the vice chair role. He's proven to have some knowledge, especially around our construction and our, the development that's here and coming to Deliberation. And I think your outlook on those projects are very welcome, especially by me. I'm a banker by nature. I am not a construction worker. So I would like to make that motion.
I second it.
All right, Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Ms. Lawson?
Yes.
We have our item number 5 marked off. We need, item number 6 is our planning and zoning board approval from our December 3rd, 2024 regular meeting. I would believe in that huge packet that you got a chance to read that, and if there are any comments that you would like to make.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay,
I second the motion.
second, and Ms. Halton?
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Purdy?
Yes.
And Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Webb?
Yes.
We do have this opportunity for anyone remaining in the public to make any comments. And would Mr. Beasley like to make a comment?
I would. John Beasley, 3716 Lee Street. I want to congratulate Josetta on 20 years. Sometimes it's a thankless job, what you do, but I know that your heart is in it for the town. You have no personal agenda, and I appreciate what you do for this town.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. You can, if you could come to the podium, please.
Yes, my name is Sean McBride, 37199 Oxford Street. I live right across the street. Do I have it's just a general question. Am I moving wrong in this community? Because I grew up here. You know, I played high school football with your brother. I went to school with your daughter. And here lately, I've just been, getting static, not from the town council, but from certain churches around here, the cliques. You know how it is in Hilliard. And I'm starting to feel like comments are being made about me. I understand I have a psychological problem, and it's compounded with a history of violence. I am a convicted felon. But I assure you, I'm not out here to hurt anybody. I'm trying to, not recidivate. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to act with aggression towards anybody or something. But if I feel like I'm not welcome, I mean, in places where, like I said, I grew up here. I'm just as much of a gust of wind in your living rooms as you are in mine. I mean, I live right across the street. I have to accept that. And I just want to know, am I moving wrong? Am I saying the wrong things? Or like I said, I'm not trying to come with any aggression. You know what I'm saying? I just want to know what y'all have to say to that.
Well, I would say that we are probably not the best board to advise you on that. However, I can empathize with your situation. I do know that there are organizations out there that do serve our community that you might be interested in hearing about, or I know our churches tend to welcome everyone. I don't know what the specifics are, but I know we don't need any.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you,
I mean, and to be honest with you, I really didn't want to step up to the mic, you know what I'm saying? This is something I'd rather would have approached John afterwards on. Because, but at the same time, I'm like the type of judgment that's starting to be passed upon me. I'm sorry, if I have to existentially step up, I'm going to existentially step up and speak my mind.
Sure, and we would welcome that for sure.
Okay.
Alicia is our communications officer. Is that what your title is? Yeah, public information. Public, and she would definitely be a great resource to help, maybe help you kind of, find that way. I do know our town is still very rural. I grew up here as well. Moved away, came back, 23 years later, with my husband in the military, and I find the community to be very welcoming.
No, for the most part, it was. I moved here in 07. I graduated in 10, as sophomore, junior, senior years of high school. I grew up here. Like I said, in the past, I made a mistake, and I said I have psychological problems. I'm willing to admit that. And whenever like something like this comes up, I am seeking help outside of this as well. But at the same time, like I said, I feel like the judgments that are coming towards me is like I said, I would rather this not be said through a microphone, but like I'm saying, if I have to existentially speak up, I'm gonna do that. All right, thank you for your time. God have a good day.
So do we have any final comments from our board?
Yes.
Have we not had any comments?
This board has no input of anything happened this town as we vote for. So I don't know what people said. It's like we don't get anything out of this except serving our talent or talent that we love.
I'm not aware of anybody. Is that any other comments? Okay, go ahead.
Not every decision we make here is going to make everyone happy. I've spent a lot of time reviewing and looking into that project personally. As I do every project that comes before us. And I take great umbrage to those that said this was already pre-approved. It wasn't pre-approved by any means. And it's still not approved for anything.
Still not approved, I know.
All we did was make a recommendation for it to move forward to the town council and to their people they're the ones that have to approve it. All we did was recommend that it move forward. We had no basis to deny them that opportunity to move forward. And that's the only reason I made a motion to move it forward. There was no basis, no concrete evidence to say no. If there was, I'd have been the first to say no, just like I always have been. And that's all I've got to say.
And I got one more. And on top of all,
thank you for your service.
okay. Thank you. And on top of all of that, I have the question is, if a person come in here and they meet all the requirements, what are we supposed to say? No. But if they done met all the requirements that we require as for the town of Villiers, it's not an opinion, it's just because it's taxes or da. That's not a reason for us to say no. But if they done met all the requirements,
I think the town perception or the resident perception is that it's just being heard tonight.
Yes.
Months and months of workshops and discussions and due diligence with other agencies within the county, within the town, within the, and I don't think the average citizen probably does realize that. So I think it's just education and awareness. Yeah. And sentiment is very important, but it cannot be the sole, all right, so with that, is there any other board comments? No?
Well, you should.
Thank you.
And you have to.
Land use administrator, any comments?
Of course. So as you know, at your last meeting, you adopted your rules and procedures that you reviewed in November. And earlier in the year, I provided you a binder that has the comp plan and it has the code. And so I made you all copies and put holes in them of your rules and procedures. You're eating Joe Michael's candy and he's watching you. For you to add to your binder. So you'll have a full copy of the procedures once you take one pass. For you to take with you. I have one more thing, but now I don't remember what it was.
It's okay.
It's when you're ready to do something.
No, I'm just. All right.
Legal counsel.
Counsel, legal counsel. Welcome to our
Yeah,
first meeting.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. All right. Accept the motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Mr. Charlie, you send me your boxes so I can get the